Hi guys, my name is Kelly Foster, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation over the ethical responsibilities to children and the ethical responsibilities to the families of those children. The NAEYC Code of Ethical Conduct states childhood is a unique and valuable stage in the human life cycle. In the first part of the Administrator Supplement, it is stated that administrators' first responsibility is to ensure the programs that they lead are safe, healthy, nurturing, and responsive to each child. As educators, we must make sure that we are taking care of our students and making sure they feel safe and included in our classrooms. There are two kinds of ethical issues I have studied about, and those are balancing the needs of an individual child with the needs of the group and situations that involve suspected child abuse. It can be difficult as educators to meet the needs of all students and balancing the needs throughout the whole group. It's easy to get caught up helping a student that might need extra help and spend your whole time over there helping them without going around and helping everybody else. But that's something that teachers have to work on and just try to balance out as they go on. Teachers are often faced with difficult situations such as suspecting if a child has been abused or neglected. Even if you're not sure, if you suspect, it is good to document this information and to communicate with your colleagues and see if they are seeing the same thing, if they have the same they suspect the same things. That way you can see if you're just maybe being too cautious, but it's better to be too cautious than not cautious enough. So when teachers face ethical issues, they must determine the nature of the problem. And they can determine the nature of the problem by first identifying the conflicting responsibilities. Then they must brainstorm possible resolutions and consider ethical finesse. Last, they must look for guidance using the NAEYC code and decide on a justifiable course of action. It's important that the course of action that they choose is the best one for everybody, and specifically that they don't just change everything for one child. We have to worry about the benefit of the whole classroom. Educators have many ethical responsibilities, but it is very important that they're familiar with the risk factors for and symptoms of child abuse. Like I said earlier, it's important that if you see any signs that make you suspect neglect or abuse, that you document it. If the child doesn't get upset, you may be able to snap a picture of the bruise, the mark, whatever you have seen that made you suspect that something is going on, and you can keep that with your documentation for if you need it. It is also important that we, like I said, communicate with our colleagues so that we make sure that they kind of know what's going on and they know what to look for to see if they're seeing the same things. But before we file a report, it's important that we call CPS, which is the Child Protection Services, to get some advice and to know what to look for and to know what questions we should ask the child and what we should not ask the child. Something else to consider is the differences in how those from different cultures discipline their child. For example, in the U.S., corporal punishment is not prohibited, but it can often cross the line and turn into child abuse. It's important that our early childhood centers educate the parents on their policies concerning child abuse. If there is a mark on the child due to harsh corporal punishment, the staff is required to report it as child abuse. It is important that the parents know this, so if the time came, they would not feel betrayed by their child's teacher. It's a requirement in some states and at some centers that the parents sign a statement that they are aware that the teachers are by law mandated to report suspected child abuse or neglect. Families are of primary importance in children's development. Section 2 of the NAEYC Code of Ethical Conduct, Ethical Responsibilities to Families, acknowledges that while your primary responsibility is the welfare and education of young children, you also have important responsibilities to children's families. It is important that educators build trusting partnerships with the families. They are respectful of each family's culture and preferences, and they enhance the family's understanding of their children's development. Common ethical issues that involve families are when you are addressing a family member's request that you do not believe is in the child's best interest, or that you do not have the resources or expertise to implement. Other issues may arise when you are asked to give away confidential information, or when you are required to report suspected neglect or abuse. Situations in which professionals must balance their obligations to a child with those they have to the child's family is known as complex client cases. The ideas in the sections of Code of Ethical Responsibilities to Children and Ethical Responsibilities to Families, an idea that stuck out to me was I-1.5, which is to create and maintain safe and healthy settings that foster children's social, emotional, cognitive, and physical development, and that respect their dignity and their contributions. Ethical finesse will often help you find a satisfactory resolution to the complex client cases you will face, but it is important that you consider the family's point of view and communicate yours respectfully, and work collaboratively to find a compromise solution. When a child's well-being is in jeopardy, the child's needs must take precedence over the family's request. Social emotional standard 1 demonstrates trust and engages in social relationships. It is important that we make sure the children know they can trust us as their educators, and that they can always come to us no matter what the situation is, and we will do our best to help them with whatever they're going through. It's also important that children engage with their peers and they gain those positive relationships as they are getting ready to, or they are already enrolled in school. And another standard that stood out to me is Creative Expression Standard 1. Demonstrates interest and participates in various forms of creative expression. It is important that children demonstrate interest and participate in various forms of creative expression. For example, if Carson grabbed his dad's wallet and said, "Okay, I'm going to get groceries," no matter your role, teacher or administrator, it is important you remember the ethical responsibilities you have and you follow through with them appropriately. It is important to remember that children come first. If the parent's request for the child is affecting the child's well-being in a negative way, we must do what is best for the child. Also, last but not least, love those babies and help them to be able to learn in an environment they feel safe, healthy, and nurtured.